The investment pantry is my cute way of talking about all the different investment choices we have as an independent RIA. And people think that when you go independent from one of the big firms, you lose the opportunity and have fewer investments to choose from. It's just the opposite of that. When you work at an independent RIA firm, the number of investments that you can select from in basically put in your pantry to go into and then put together in a portfolio for your clients multiplies many, many times over. Matter of fact, almost all the investments that exist in the world are at your fingertips as an independent RIA. Now, obviously, you have to do due diligence on all of them, but I thought it was important to note that all listed domestic equities, international equities, corporate bonds, munis, all different options, government bonds, international bonds, all of these investments are available, including we have access to investments at Morgan Stanley, Goldman, UBS, Merrill Lynch. We have access to all the different real estate investments, oil and gas, and so on and so forth. And even to the point where we can go out and find investments like litigation funds, mid-market buyout funds. You can actually invest in cattle and timber through an independent RIA like ours at Chapwood Investments. We do not get involved with cryptocurrencies. That's just something that is something we stay completely away from. However, we do have a very robust platform on the alternative side as well. Private equity. These managers have enormous minimums if you wanted to go directly to them. We have, through one of our providers, access to build portfolios with these different managers. Some of these you would recognize, most of them you don't. But for instance, Vista, you might remember not too long ago some gentleman donated a lot of money and paid off the tuition for a lot of people at one of the universities. That's Vista Equity. The returns on these managers historically have been off the charts. And if you wanted to go directly to them, as I said, they will not take your money. They are full. We have access to them. We also have access to the top institutional hedge fund managers in the world. We also have another platform you'll see in a second where we have access to smaller hedge funds and smaller managers, not all hedge funds. But I wanted you to see here that there's about 40 different managers, the biggest and the best in the country, literally in the world, that we have access to. And we can build customized portfolios using everything that you just saw on our alternative platform. Here's an example of a proposal that we would put together, and you can come down through here, and again, this is just a sample. You can see the historical returns, and this is for Third Point, Millennium, D.E. Shaw, Oculus, and 2 Sigma. Here's the key, and it's very small. We'll try to make it bigger. If you wanted to get the minimum allocation, because each one of these managers has a very high minimum, you'd have to have at least $26 million to get this allocation. We can do it for as low as $500,000. These are the top institutional managers literally in the world. Let me go ahead and get this. And you can then see up here the different percentages, their historical numbers, and this again goes back quite some time. And then we get into some of the details about each one. So any of these managers that you want to know more information about, D.E. Shaw, Millennium, Third Point, we have all of this information right behind here. Now that's on the institutional side, and I think it's also important to look at different charts that we get. For instance, Millennium. This is called a histogram, and we'll explain to you what this means, but it basically is saying how the disbursement of returns since January of 2009 through May of 2019, and you can see how wonderful these are. They're not huge numbers, but they're just very consistent. And that's what you get with institutional quality managers. You can also see the correlation to the stock market is 0.14. Very, very low. More charts. All of this is really institutional quality, but I want you to see that we have tremendous access to a lot of great institutional quality private equity and hedge fund managers. Now through another platform, it's called SmartX. And SmartX allows us to gain access to very sophisticated models. And that might not make a lot of sense, and I'll go into greater explanation if we ever talk about this, but it allows us to get into certain types of investments that the bulge bracket firms don't have, meaning Morgan and Goldman, UBS. I know I'm leaving out one that I like to go after, but those you don't have access to these through those different firms, but through us and through SmartX, you do. So we have a tremendous platform, and every investment that you could possibly think about, we gain access to, and we have at Chapwood Investments. So just wanted to share all that information with you, and we can go into greater detail. And if there are investments that you're interested in that you didn't see on the list, let us know, because we certainly, as I've said, have access to them. So thank you very much.